On how to do a tinner's joint. For a jacket or an all ceramic restoration, the first thing we do is we're going to create a temporary substructure that the porcelain can be built on. It's called a tinner's joint, or it's called a matrix, and the tinner's joint is what holds it together. When you purchase palladium or platinum foil, very expensive, 0.001 inches, dead soft. Okay, so here's 1 penny weight. What did this cost you?
34.
Okay, not bad. Okay. You get a small sheet, 1 penny weight, and they give you a sheet and they show you how to cut it so you don't have any waste. So what you do is you take the sheet and you lay it in place and you cut it accordingly, and you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to get 10 pieces for 10 crowns out of this one little sheet. If you waste it, you wasted it. So before we use her good metal, we're going to practice with tin foil. Essentially it's the same, but don't ever put tin foil in the oven. The tin foil will melt. So this is just for practice purposes. So let's start. First thing we do, we take our piece of foil on either the mesial or distal side. We take the piece and slowly adapt it to the die. So what I'm doing with my finger, I'm pushing it down and I'm slowly going to... So now that we've adapted the foil, there are no wrinkles. We're using an orange wood stick or maybe something that's soft, a wooden stick, and with a rounded surface. We can't use anything sharp or we're going to tear it. So again, we started on the mesial or distal. We've slowly worked it all the way around. The most important area, of course, is always the margin. So make sure that it's adapted very well to the margin. If you look at the lingual side of the die, you can see the cingulum, the marginal ridges, you can see the margin. Now I've adapted it all the way down. Now that I've done that, I take my tweezers, specially designed for doing matrices, squeeze the surfaces together, make sure it's fitting very nicely. Now take your scissors, cut away, but leave yourself a couple of millimeters. Cut away the part you don't need. So I cut away slightly from the incisal, cut away slightly from the opposing side. If you notice, I've left a small amount of metal to work with. Now, take your tweezers, open it up a little bit, take your scissors, cut away about a millimeter or so, depending how much room you gave yourself to work with. Now when you squeeze this together again, you'll notice the lingual side is slightly shorter. Okay, so the labial side is longer, the lingual side is shorter. So I have two pieces of metal that have come together. At this point, I take the longer one and I very carefully fold the longer piece over the shorter piece. One fold, squeeze it together. Now a second fold, and I fold it down onto itself, and then I slowly burnish all of this down into place. Use your orange wood stick so you don't make a hole in the foil. So it was a double fold. Once I've done that, I've now sealed it together. Now I can take my scissors again, cut the incisal slightly shorter. I'm cutting a little bit off the corners so it comes down at a 45-degree angle. A little bit off. Take a little bit off the incisal edge. Don't leave more than you need because you don't want the foil hanging down. Cut the edges, leave yourself a small amount. Readapt any area you have. Burnish your incisal, bring the incisal edge over again. Taper, and if you burnish it correctly, you can't even see where these folds are if done correctly. You don't want any sharp corners, so burnish everything down into place. Once you've smoothed out all the surfaces, make sure all the sharp edges are gone. Taper everything down, make sure you have no wrinkles. Readapt the surface. If you look at the labial surface, you can see how nice and smooth it is. You can see the margin, the labial margin. If I come around to the lingual side, same thing here. Now take your Bard Parker knife, which of course I don't have. Take a small scalpel. We want to have about 2 millimeters of metal hanging down as an apron. This is the piece that this will allow you that after you would build the porcelain, this is the area that you're going to be grabbing to take the crown on and off. You don't want to be grabbing onto the preparation because you're going to damage it. So that's why you have a small piece. So this little piece here is going to be cut away. I'll cut it into a slight curve. So I should have an overextension of about 2 millimeters all the way around. Once I cut away the excess, I can adapt it for the very last time. Make sure there are no wrinkles, make sure there are no tears. And to make it fit a little bit better, I have a swedger. A swedger is made up of 2 pieces. What a swedger does is it compresses all sides at the same time. Put the die into the swedger, take a sheet of plastic foil, put the plastic foil over the die and the matrix, put the upper portion on, take your mallet, hit it a couple times. What that does is it compresses all sides equally. So it takes a good matrix and it'll make it even better. Once this is done, you want to degas it. Usually the way this is degassed, instead of placing it in a furnace, you can take it off, lift it off with your tweezers, hold it over a Bunsen burner for a few seconds until it gets to be a cherry red, and that burns off any contaminants. Some people will put it in a ceramic furnace, but most ceramists will just use a torch. So lift it off very carefully. Try not to damage your margins. If you do, you can just readapt it because you're probably going to damage it anyway just by taking it off. So very slightly lift it off. Once you cut away that excess, I won't have any problem. It's just going to come right up. But I just didn't have my knife with me. So take the piece off, matrix up, take the matrix off, hold it with your tweezers, bring it over to your Bunsen burner, hold it over the flame with a Bunsen burner until it becomes a cherry red. Then bring it back, let it cool off first, put it back on, back into place, make sure it's down, re-burnish any areas that may have gotten damaged, then you're ready to opaque. Apply opaque, bake it as normal, and then go ahead and build up the crown. And that's how a matrix works, and now you know how to do a tinner's joint. After practicing this about 10 times, you may actually come up with a good one. Good luck.